All right, so iPhone users, are you ready to get smart? We're diving deep into Apple Intelligence today.
We're going to break down what's useful, what's still a work in progress, and whether you need to sprint to the Apple Store for a new iPhone right this second.
Our source for this deep dive is a Tom's Guide article from October 29th. They get into the nitty-gritty of how Apple Intelligence actually impacts users, like you.
Yeah, this isn't just about the hype. We're talking about features you can use right now, today, but there are some limitations too, things you should definitely know before you get too excited.
So buckle up, iPhone fans. We're about to get intelligent about Apple Intelligence.
Let's start with what the Tom's Guide folks thought was the most impressive improvement. Ready for it? The Mail app.
Mail. Really? Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm in my inbox like 204/7, so any upgrades there are a big deal for me.
Well, one of the coolest features is priority mail. So imagine this. The AI can actually spot deadlines and important calls to action in your emails.
Whoa, wait. So it's like having a personal assistant who knows what needs my attention first.
Exactly. It goes beyond just sorting, though. Priority mail uses a really clever visual indicator, kind of like a super obvious flag, so urgent emails just jump out at you when you open your inbox.
Okay, I'm liking this already. Anything that helps me see what needs attention first is a huge win. Less scrolling, less stress.
Right. And then there's the AI-generated summaries. You get a quick overview of the whole email without even having to open it. Time saver.
Oh, that would make searching so much easier too. Like
Yeah,
having a mini preview right there in your inbox. Though, does it show you the whole summary or just a snippet?
the article says it's a pretty comprehensive summary, enough to get the gist. But you can always open the full email if you need every detail, like I usually do.
Okay, fair enough. Now, what about smart replies? Are they actually smarter than the basic ones we're used to?
Way smarter. Remember those generic replies Gmail used to have, like yes, no, or maybe? Apple's smart replies actually use context, like deadlines or specific requests, to give you more relevant options.
So it's not just a canned response. It's actually crafting something intelligent based on what's in the email.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of just saying yes, it might suggest something like, yes, I can meet that deadline. What time works best?
Okay, impressed so far. They really thought this through. What about photos? Any cool AI stuff happening there?
Big time. The search is totally revamped. You can bitch those clunky keywords and just search using normal, everyday language.
Hold on. So instead of searching beach vacation July, I could just type photos of my daughter building sandcastles.
Yep. Or photos where I look happy, or photos from my graduation. The AI understands you, not just keywords.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Makes finding those special memories so much easier. Anything else cool in photos?
There's this feature called memory movies. You type in a text prompt, and the AI creates a slideshow with photos and videos complete with music, like a mini editor right in your pocket.
Wait, seriously, so I could type in my dog learning to swim at the lake, and it would make a whole movie.
That's the idea. You can even choose music styles. And if you have Apple Music, you get even more options.
Okay, that's really cool. Though the article did say something about narrative arcs not quite being there yet. What's that about?
Right, so they initially promised these memory movies would tell a whole story, like a mini movie. But it seems that part isn't fully there yet. So, fun slideshows, yes. Spielberg-level storytelling, not quite.
Got it. So maybe hold off on those Oscar nominations for now. But even without the fancy narratives, it sounds fun. Speaking of photos, what about editing? Any sign of something like Google's Magic Eraser?
They have a cleanup tool, similar but maybe not as seamless. You can remove stuff, but it might leave a little trace behind.
So not totally magic, but still handy for getting rid of those pesky photo bombers. What about their new writing tools? Any stand out?
Definitely. There's a professional tone feature that can make your writing super formal. Think cover letters or business proposals.
Ooh, that could be a game changer. Even for decent writers, that extra polish could make a real difference.
Absolutely. And even if you're a great writer, it can help you nail that extra formal style. So we've covered the highlights, the stuff that really impressed us. But what about the other side of the coin? What about the features that need some work?
Yeah, let's get real. What didn't quite live up to the hype?
Well, one area where the article points out some issues is with transcriptions. It's available on all iPhones running iOS 18, but it really needs clear speech to work well.
You mean transcribing things like voice memos or phone calls?
Yep. Great idea, but it seems to struggle with accents, background noise, or multiple speakers. The article even warns you to be ready to edit those transcripts yourself.
So, a good start, but not quite ready to replace human transcribers. What about Siri? Did Apple Intelligence make her any smarter?
Siri's still evolving, Apple has big updates planned for 2025, so they know there's room for improvement.
Okay, but what's better, Ed Now W? What can we actually experience today?
Well, you can now correct yourself mid-query without confusing Siri, and it's better at understanding context. Like, if you ask about the weather in Barcelona, then ask for the week's forecast, Siri knows you're still talking about Barcelona.
Ah, so it's getting better at holding a conversation, not just responding to isolated commands.
Exactly. But it's not perfect. The article mentions that Siri can still get confused with complex questions.
So, baby steps, but in the right direction.
hmm
What are those other writing tools besides the professional tone feature? Any of those worth mentioning?
Honestly, the rest seem kind of hit or miss. There's a condensing tool that can remove important details, and then there's this rewrite button.
Rewrite sounds interesting and maybe a little dangerous. What does it actually do?
It's supposed to rewrite your text, but it mostly just swaps in synonyms without considering the context. So you might end up with something that sounds robotic.
Ooh, I can see that going wrong quickly. So, mixed bag with the writing tools, some potential, some room for improvement. It seems like a lot of the Apple Intelligence features are like that.
You're right. It's more about potential than revolution right now, but it'll be interesting to see how they evolve.
All right, the big question everyone's wondering, is Apple Intelligence the reason to upgrade your iPhone?
The article's conclusion, not a must-have just yet. More like a nice-to-have. The iPhone 16 has other great features, like better battery life and cameras. But if you have a compatible iPhone, you'll definitely enjoy the new AI stuff.
So if you're due for an upgrade anyway, go for it. You get to play with the new toys.
But if your iPhone 15 is still rocking, you're not missing out on anything life-changing yet. By the time you do upgrade, Apple Intelligence will probably be even better.
Makes sense. It's like anything new in tech, it takes time to mature. So that's Apple Intelligence, based on our deep dive into the Tom's Guide article. A lot of promise, some real wins, and a few areas that need a little more polish. Before we move on, was there anything else in the article that really jumped out at you?
You know, what struck me was how Apple is approaching this whole AI thing. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're taking existing features and making them smarter, more efficient.
That's a good point. It's not about flashy new features. It's about subtle improvements that make our lives a little easier. Like those mail upgrades, seeing important emails at a glance, or getting a quick summary. Little things that can make a big difference.
Exactly. It's not about replacing human intelligence. It's about augmenting it. It's about working with technology to boost our productivity. I think that's key as we navigate this world of increasingly intelligent tech, finding that balance between human and artificial intelligence.
That's such a critical point. It's not about AI taking over. It's about AI working with us to make things better.
Absolutely. And it'll be fascinating to watch how Apple's approach to AI develops and what truly innovative features emerge as Apple Intelligence matures.
All right, so we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive into Apple Intelligence. We talked specifics, both the good and the not so good. But there's so much more to this topic.
In part 2, we're going to zoom out and look at the bigger picture of AI. How does Apple Intelligence measure up against other players like Google? We'll discuss the competitive landscape, different approaches, and what it all means for the future of technology.
We'll be back soon with part 2. Until then, keep those iPhones charged up and those minds curious.
Welcome back, everyone. It's really interesting to see how Apple is choosing to integrate AI, especially when you compare it to what other big tech companies are doing, like Google.
That's a great point. It
Yeah.
seems like every tech company is jumping on the AI bandwagon these days, but they're all doing it differently. How does Apple's approach stack up against Google's?
Well, Google has been really aggressive with AI for a while now. Think about Google Search. They've been using AI for years to fine-tune those search results and give us more relevant info. And then there's Google Assistant, which is getting really good at understanding and responding to natural language.
Right. I use Google Assistant for almost everything these days. And don't forget their photo editing tools,
Yeah.
like Magic Eraser. That's been around for a while, too. And it's similar to Apple's new cleanup tool, right? So is Apple just playing catch-up here, or are they doing something different?
I think it's a little of both. Yeah, Google has a head start in some areas, but Apple seems to be taking a more measured, strategic approach. Instead of launching a ton of separate AI apps, they're focusing on weaving AI into the stuff we already use every day.
Which, knowing Apple, makes sense. They're all about simplicity, a seamless experience that it just works, magic. They don't want to overwhelm people with a bunch of new stuff. It's more about those subtle improvements that really make a difference.
Exactly. And remember, Apple is still early in the game with Apple Intelligence. What we're seeing now is really just the tip of the iceberg. I think they're taking their time to make sure these AI features are really integrated and useful. Who knows what amazing things they'll come up with in the next few years.
It is exciting to think about the possibilities, but let's not get carried away. AI is still developing. It's not some magic wand that's going to solve all our problems overnight.
For sure. There's a lot of hype around AI, and it's easy to get caught up in it. But it's important to remember that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it has limitations. We need to be realistic about what it can and can't do.
That's a great point. We can't just blindly trust these algorithms. We need to be thoughtful about how we use AI and be aware of the potential downsides, too.
There was a quote in the Tom's Guide article that really stuck with me. An industry analyst said, Apple is betting that people will value subtle improvements to their existing workflows more than flashy new features. I think that pretty much sums up their approach.
It's not about wowing us with tech tricks. It's about making our lives easier and more efficient. It's about those little moments where you think, oh, that's handy, not, whoa, that's mind-blowing.
Exactly. It's about improving the experiences we already have, not necessarily replacing them with something totally new.
Like those mail improvements we talked about. They didn't reinvent email, but those little tweaks, the priority flags, the AI summaries can really streamline how we manage our inbox.
Right. And that, to me, is the real power of AI. It's not about replacing human intelligence. It's about making it better. It's about using technology to be more efficient, more creative, more connected.
I love that. It's not man versus machine. It's man with machine, working together to do more.
This isn't just about iPhones either. Apple Intelligence is going into iPads and Macs too. This is just the start of a bigger shift in how we interact with tech.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's easy to get iPhone focused, but this is a much bigger story.
It's going to be fascinating to see how developers use this technology and what kind of cool apps and features they come up with. Imagine what we could do with AI woven into all our devices. Creativity, productivity, learning, the possibilities are huge.
That's a really interesting point. We've been talking mostly about how consumers use AI, but the potential for developers and businesses is incredible. The tools and solutions they could create.
It's mind-blowing, right? We're at the very beginning of a new era in computing, and it's going to be amazing to watch this all unfold.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about the specifics of Apple Intelligence, how it compares to what companies like Google are doing, and the bigger picture for technology. But let's bring it back down to earth for a second. What does all this mean for the everyday iPhone user, like right now?
I think the biggest takeaway for iPhone users is this. If you've got a compatible iPhone, you're going to start noticing little helpful improvements in how you use it. Things will just be a bit easier, smoother, more intuitive.
It's not going to be a total transformation overnight. It's more about those gradual improvements that, over time, will add up to a better experience.
Yeah, you'll be able to find those photos you're looking for faster, manage your emails better, and hopefully have fewer Siri frustrations. It's about the tech working for you, not the other way around.
And for anyone who's thinking about upgrading soon, it's something to consider, right?
Definitely. By the time you upgrade, Apple Intelligence will probably have even more features, even more capabilities. It's constantly evolving, and Apple's clearly committed to making AI a core part of their ecosystem going forward.
So it's not a reason to run out and buy a new phone today, but it's definitely something to keep in mind for the future. Like we said, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
And in the meantime, keep an eye out for those little improvements that Apple Intelligence is already bringing to your iPhone. You might be surprised at how much they can change things.
Great advice. So we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive into Apple Intelligence competition, approaches to AI, what it means for users today. But there's one more important thing we need to talk about.
And what's that?
We've been focusing on the exciting stuff, the potential benefits of AI. But there's another side to this story we need to address.
You're talking about the data privacy and security side of things.
Exactly. With AI becoming more and more a part of our lives, our devices, it really makes you think about the implications for data privacy and security.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a valid concern. I mean, think about it. We're giving these AI systems access to so much personal stuff. Our emails, photos, our browsing history, even location data, it's all there.
Right. And all that can be used to build these incredibly detailed profiles of us, of what we do, who we are. Kind of creepy when you think about it.
It really is. And it raises some big questions like, how is that data being used? Who has access to it? What's being done to protect our privacy?
Yeah, we're not just talking about targeted ads anymore. This is sensitive stuff. It could put us at risk in all sorts of ways if it falls into the wrong hands.
It's interesting, though, the Tom's Guide article we've been discussing, it barely touched on these privacy concerns. They focus mainly on how well the features work, but I think it's crucial to dig deeper into the potential downsides, too.
Absolutely. We need to be aware of what we're giving up for the sake of convenience.
Yeah.
Are we trading our privacy for a slightly easier life? And how much control do we actually have over how our data is used?
Well, Apple has been pretty upfront about their commitment to user privacy. It's been a big part of their marketing, right? Positioning themselves as the privacy-focused alternative to companies like Google, who haven't exactly had the best track record when it comes to data collection.
Right, that whole what happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone campaign. But with AI involved, does that still hold true? I mean, the systems need data to learn and get better. So how do they balance that with privacy?
That is the million-dollar question. It's complicated. Apple claims that a lot of the AI processing for Apple Intelligence actually happens right there on your device. So your data isn't necessarily being sent to the cloud.
Okay, that's good. Right. Keeping it on the device would help with privacy concerns. But even then, how transparent is Apple being about how that data is used? Do we really know what info is being collected and how it's analyzed?
That's where it gets murky. I think Apple, like a lot of tech companies, needs to be more open about their data practices, especially when it comes to AI. Users have a right to know what's happening with their data, and they should be able to control their privacy settings.
No question. We need to be demanding more transparency from these companies. It's our data, after all. But it's not just about individual companies either. We need a bigger conversation about data privacy in the age of AI. Where do we draw the line? What are the ethical issues? How do we balance innovation with protecting our fundamental rights?
You're right. It's a much bigger issue. This isn't just about technology. It's about society and ethics. We need to think long term. What happens when we hand over so much of our personal information to these algorithms? What are the risks? What could go wrong that we haven't even thought of yet?
It's kind of like opening Pandora's box, right?
Yeah.
We get so excited about the new features that we forget to think about the potential downsides. We need to be asking tough questions, demanding answers from the companies creating this tech.
You know, it's not all doom and gloom, though. AI has the potential to do amazing things, especially in fields like healthcare, education, even environmental protection. But we need to be careful, make sure ethics are at the forefront.
That's a great point. It's all about finding that balance, isn't it? We can be excited about what AI can do, but also realistic about the risks. We need to be informed, stand up for our privacy, and demand transparency from the companies that are shaping this technology.
Well said. So, to sum things up for our listeners, here are some key takeaways. First, do your homework. Before you jump into any new AI feature or service, take a minute to understand how it works, what data it's collecting, what privacy options you have.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. If something feels off, if it seems like it's asking for too much information, speak up. Push back a little. These companies need to be held accountable.
Absolutely. And lastly, remember, you have a voice. Talk to people, friends, family, colleagues about this stuff. The more we discuss data privacy, the ethical side of AI, the better prepared we'll be as a society to deal with these issues.
Couldn't agree more. We can't be passive. We need to be part of this conversation, demanding transparency, accountability, ethical practices from the companies that are developing and using AI.
It's our future, right? We have a say in how it unfolds.
Well, there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into Apple Intelligence. From the nuts and bolts of the features to the bigger picture of data privacy and the future of AI.
It's been quite a journey, but really, this is just the beginning of the conversation.
AI is going to keep evolving, and we'll be here to break it all down, look at the trends, figure out what it all means. So stay curious, stay engaged, and keep those questions coming, because the learning never stops.
And neither do we. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.